Opinion, most jacked people you see on Instagram are on something like TRT or some kind of thing going on. And so whenever I saw you talking about it on early podcasts of like, I'm not on steroids and all this stuff, I'm like, everybody's on something.
So I just want to make it crystal clear, like, I own this. I lied about not being on steroids. I lied about not being on them, recently. I know what I did was wrong, and that's what I apologize for.
So you don't brush your teeth either?
I haven't brushed my teeth in years.
How'd you get away with that?
You see modern day primitive culture tribes, they don't brush, they don't floss.
So I don't need to brush my teeth. I don't need to eat vegetables.
You don't need to shower.
Bro, that's extreme. I shower like 2 to 3 times a day. I'm addicted to showering like you are to working out. All right, I'm here with the man, the myth, the ultimate primal Liver King. What's up, man?
Thank you so much, man, for doing this with me.
Yeah, I appreciate you letting us share your penthouse for the podcast, dude. It's amazing.
Well, like I said before, when I'm back home, I prefer to go nowhere, and it's great because I'm able to remain focused on what I need to do. And I'm able to remain focused right now on what I need to do. So you coming here really helps me out a ton.
Yeah, bro. So a lot of people watching this, obviously, you've got the whole steroid controversy going on, and we're going to talk about that. One thing I really want to talk about too, as we get into this, is just you as the entrepreneur and the marketing side, and how you've developed over the years. Because I think a lot of people see this Liver King persona, and they don't really know the real you. And I've seen it starting to come out on a lot of these new podcasts recently. Yeah. How's that been?
It's been amazing.
Yeah.
It's been a part of me that I stuffed back in here. I tell people that Brian Johnson's dead. Liver King came out of the cage, ate Brian Johnson. Brian Johnson's dead. But the truth is, Brian Johnson's been back in here. Throughout this process, throughout the storm of my own creation, I've been able to get in touch with some of these really valuable characteristics. It's the vulnerable piece that I can share that's enabling me to even go deeper to work on myself. The relatable, the human pieces, that I'm able to tease out of that cage. And my intention is to keep these attributes moving forward.
Yeah, no, I love it, dude. So, I've already seen you kind of go on a few of these podcasts already and explain just everything with the whole steroid controversy and how it all came about and everything. And, my perspective's, I think, a little bit different than most in that I grew up playing pro sports. And so I was around PEDs a lot. And, getting drafted, I remember seeing guys just shooting up, just doing whatever it takes to get to the big leagues. And for me, I never ended up doing anything like that just because I was like, I'm not doing that. If I'm going to get to the big leagues, I want to do it on my own accord. And I want to, know morally that I did it and I accomplished it. But as I got done playing ball, I was like, well, at this point, what's it really matter, right? I'm not like playing a game against other people. It's not like a huge deal. And when I see all these other guys, basically, in my opinion, most jacked people you see on Instagram are on something like TRT or some kind of thing going on. And so whenever I saw you talking about it on early podcasts of like, I'm not on steroids and all this stuff, I'm like, everybody's on something that I see that's huge. And I guess it just wasn't really a surprise to me. And I was just kind of like, yeah, I mean, it's not a surprise.
I've heard a lot of people say that. I've heard a lot of people say, well, you're telling me that you didn't already know. I want to make it really clear that I still did this thing, right? Like, I take credit for doing this. And some people actually did give me the benefit of the doubt. A lot of people gave me the benefit of the doubt. So I just want to make it crystal clear, like, I own this. I did this. I lied about not being on steroids. Then I lied about not being on them, recently. I have been taking steroids. I'm on steroids. I know what I did was wrong. And that's what I apologize for.
Yeah. No, and I mean, to me, I didn't feel any type of way. Like, I text you when it all came out. I'm like, hey, bro, like, if you need anything, let me know. Like, here to help, because we had a podcast already scheduled way before the controversy went down.
Yeah. And so some of those podcasts that had previously been scheduled are now canceled. And so for you wanting to continue to do this, that means a ton to me, and part of what I'm hearing here is like, when this whole thing came out, loyalty above all, such an important principle in my house. And there's so many guys like you that reached out that I don't even know that well, that said, hey man, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
And I can help you if you want this help. And so thank you for that.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. So I don't want to talk too much about that topic because I think you've already done an amazing job bringing it to light and kind of talking about it. I mean, at the end of the day, you and I were talking pre-show about this, and it's like, look, you're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place of, well, if you come out and say this, you're going to have people saying, you know, you're going to influence people to do it. Like, that's number one, what's going to happen. But on the other hand, you have people saying, well, you know, he's selling these products, and, you know, he's saying that, oh, well, if you just eat liver, you'll be jacked, you know? And it's like, I don't know that there's really a scenario where you win in either of those, unless you just come out and say, hey, I do steroids, but I also believe liver's great. I believe all of these things work, whether you're using PEDs or not. And it's kind of hard. I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah. You know what? I have my own justifications, right? And they're unequivocally wrong. They're all wrong. But that's why the mind is such a dangerous weapon, because I convinced myself of 2 or 3 things, but primarily this had to do with primarily I would say this had nothing to do with my message.
Right.
And then I said, who the fuck am I cheating? I don't play baseball.
Yeah.
I don't do any of this. Like, who am I cheating? And then when I think about the kids, I'm like, I'm going to give this message to the kids. And then once I convinced myself of these things, I'm like, you know, I lied about it.
Right.
And then I just kept digging myself into this hole. I'm like, oh my God, like, and I didn't know if I would ever dig myself out of this hole. And I didn't, you know, it was Derek who presented this opportunity. I'm like, okay, now this is my reality. I get to face my reality now. And I'll tell you, this was the only thing that I misled people about. Again, I'm not saying that this was right, but like, I know that I did this, and now I have the opportunity to be way better.
Yeah. No, and I'll be clear too. I don't think any scenario of lying makes sense, no matter how tough the decision is. And, you know, I can tell you, most people now that they know, I think obviously the wind will pass, and, you know, it'll be back on, you know, hopefully months from now or however long it takes. But I can see the remorsefulness and everything else. And so for me, like, people probably watching this podcast like, well, drill them on steroids and this. I'm like, honestly, it's not even going to do anybody any good. Like, I actually want to hear about the things that you're doing that are positive, that can help people.
Cool.
And, you know, how you've built these businesses, what you've learned from this controversy, and more importantly, like, how you became this, in my opinion, one of the best marketers in the world. Like, that's what I like looked at you as, even well before this, and why I wanted you on the show.
I look forward to talking about it all. We were down at the beach today, and this guy comes running up, Liver King, you changed my life. And we're in the middle of taping something, and I said, guys, hold on. I need this right now. Come over here. How did I change your life? And he knows everything that's going on, you know, and I said, listen, you know, amidst everything that's going on right now, front and center is this mistake that I've made. What I've done that is wrong, and I've owned it, and I'm leading. And he's like, but here's how you changed my life. I started eating just like you. I started eating liver. Physically, I felt better, but all the benefits came up here. The drive, the determination, the mood to live a better life. And I'm like, man, like, that was the whole reason for starting this. And to hear people coming out and giving that kind of support, I'm like, the North Star has never changed. This will continue on. You know, I was strong before Liver King, will remain strong after Liver King. And to hear that, it's one thing to see it on a DM.
Yeah.
When you have a guy running up to you, an adult man running up to you to tell you this, I'm like, man, I really need it. And then I said, Thomas, are you recording this?
Yeah.
Get this on video because I need to watch it later.
Yeah, I can tell you just from firsthand experience, when I watched your other podcast, I forget who it was, but, you know, you're like, yeah, dude, it's kind of freeing just telling the truth.
Yeah.
And as I've gotten on social media and I've had to, you know, have more people judging what I'm doing, I've always realized that just telling the truth always works. And so it's like, even for me, I'm like, hey, right now, I got a lot of house flips that are going to lose money just because the market's turning and it sucks. And like, I teach people how to flip houses and invest in real estate for a living. And it's like, well, I could try to hide it and pretend like, you know, I'm just this best investor who doesn't make mistakes or anything, but I just own it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to lose money and this is what it is. And what I have found is people respect you even more when they understand your faults, because they don't look at you like you're Superman who's invincible. I'm like, bro, I got to deal with this. I got to deal with that. Yeah. Like, this business is struggling due to this, and I made terrible decisions here. And believe it or not, it makes business even better.
I'm realizing that, and I'm getting enough feedback now from some of our original stakeholders that now are telling me, hey man, I followed you before. My life was changed, you know, before you said any of this stuff. So I was always going to follow you through the storm. But let me tell you, the vulnerable part of you that's coming out, this relatable part, this human part of you that's coming out, I love you even more now. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like maybe there's another silver lining in this. But to your point, I'm like, you know what? I know I got myself into this by lying. I'm never going back to do that shit again.
No, there's no point.
So even if it's hard to tell somebody whatever the hell's going on, you know, or maybe I don't want to tell them at all. You know, that's something I don't think I've ever been comfortable with before, to say, hey, no comment. Hey, I'm not going to talk about this. I'm like, you know what? I don't know what it is about me, but it's like, okay, let's just start talking.
Yeah.
And so that's for sure a commitment that I've made. It's like, I'm not going back to this again.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to talk about that with just this kind of, as I would call it, a WWE character persona you've created with Liver King. Because in earlier interviews, when people would ask you certain things, right, it was always a very super crazy answer, right? Yeah. Like, dude, how many times do you take a dump? You're like, I don't. Yeah.
Oh, for the record, I didn't say I don't. I said I take one royal shit a day.
But, you know, I'm just like, yeah, I mean, obviously this guy's joking with a lot of things, but he's like, I love it. You know, I love that he's willing to do this, and it's just like kind of like this great show. And
I do try and build. You're 100% right about this, and I didn't really realize it until you said that, because there's enough comments. Oh, I wonder how many times that guy blows up the bathroom. Like, oh my gosh, like there's so many comments and DMs. Okay, let's make a reel. Yeah. And the reel is going to be, Primals want to know, how many royal shits does Liver King take a day? You know, and so I turned it all into, I take one royal massive shit a day. You're 100% right about that. Yeah, I definitely, like, okay, I got an opportunity to address that. How do I address this Liver King style?
Yeah. Well, just everything is so, from what I've seen as a marketer, I study marketing, and I'm like, everything is so over the top. Like, I'll see you have Liver King Chef Lionel bring in this like 20 pounds of meat. Mm-hmm. And you're like, yep, me and my family are gonna eat this meat. And I'm like, are they really about to eat like 20 pounds of meat for them and Liver Queen and the two kids? And it's like, it's so over the top, but it makes the point of like, yo, this is what it is. Like, this is what we do, and this is what we want. Like, you know, this is the message we're preaching. Like, you have to be extreme in order to get your message heard in social media. I guess that's the point.
Yeah. You know, Liver King Chef Lionel's amazing. Yeah. You know, and his creations, how he comes up with them, you know, and then to actually execute on them. I mean, I don't know if you saw the meat Christmas tree. He made a meat Christmas tree, and then I'm like, how are you going to cook this? This is all off camera. Then he did it on camera. He brought a torch. He turns on the propane tank and he torches it. I thought I was going to catch on fire, you know, and he's done a great job at carrying like the Liver King proportion stuff forward. Yeah. You know, all of that is baked into the brand. I'll tell you what's not baked into the brand is liver and testicle and bone marrow. We have this stuff. We had all this stuff before, you know, but we definitely started to ratchet it up, and we're like, hey, how do we do a Texas chain?
I saw you have like a bobcat.
Yeah. Well, and but you know what? Like we're trapping animals all the time out at the ranch. Yeah. And our chickens were going left and right, and so Jim catches the bobcats. Like I said, hey, what do you do with this stuff? And he gives them to the birds. Yeah. You give the stuff to the birds. Yeah. Why don't we here's what Liver King's having for dinner, and can we actually eat some of this stuff? Some of the stuff you can't eat, but a lot of stuff you can eat. Yeah. It's like, okay, let's at least try it. And if it doesn't work out for us, we got a whole team of people that will try and devour the rest, or we got a pack of Dobermans that will eat it too. I'm
curious from a nutritional standpoint, do you have any idea what your macros are?
I have an idea. I don't track my macro. I haven't tracked my macros in a long time, but I have a pretty decent idea.
Like, how much protein are you eating a day?
Okay, I thought you were going to ask percentage-wise. It's probably close to 300 grams of protein. Okay. Maybe a little bit more. Maybe like 340 grams of protein. And
then, so what would the percentages be if you had to?
Yeah, I would say 60 to 70% is fat. Yeah. Yeah. Then we're looking at the rest of it. Majority is protein. I don't have a whole lot of carbs. I have some maple syrup, but we're talking like 30 grams, you know, at a time. I have some maple syrup, but unless I've really worked my ass off, or unless I just like lose the willpower, I'm not eating a whole lot of carbs that are on the table. The kids will eat that.
Yeah. Okay.
In fact, I don't know if you've ever seen. Have you ever seen the sacrifice bowl?
No.
It says, I wrote sacrifice on the outside of it. Here's what Liver King's having for dinner, yada, 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 yada. And here's my sacrifice bowl. These are the carbs I already earned, but I'm not going to have, hence the sacrifice. And when I set that there, I'm like, nothing can go in there. That's a physical thing for me to connect with, to say, no carbs are going in there. And for me, like I'll take like 6 or 8 weeks and I'll have very little to no carbs with a couple of carb refeeds in the middle. But I think my macros are pretty much, that's not exact.
Yeah.
I haven't measured that in a long time.
Yeah, no, it looks like it.
It's a lot of protein.
It's funny because probably about a year ago, people in my office started telling me about you. They were like, you got to see this guy, the Liver King, dude. He's crazy. Like, he's literally just eating raw liver, just eating chunks of it and things like that. I got to know the truth. Like, were you doing that before, or did you just take it up a whole new level?
Oh, we were absolutely doing that before. Okay. You know what's really cool? Somebody found some really old videos of us, like 2 days ago, maybe a day ago. I don't know. We're right after the UFC. We're going to bed. And Liver Queen comes running out and she goes, there's these videos online from like several years ago. And I started looking at the videos and I said, holy shit, somebody hacked like all of our personal stuff. And one of these videos is from like 7 or 8 years ago. Maybe it's 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. I'm showing like myself doing a bench press, a PR and all this stuff. And then I go show my kids. And I go show Rad, and I said, I don't know if you noticed this, but that's blood on the side of his face. That's from dinner last night that he never cleaned off of his face. Because we have been eating this way for such a long time. We've been eating raw food. We've been drinking blood. We've been doing this stuff really for a long time.
So I'll give you the story. These guys tell me about it, right? And I'm even though I'm on social media, I don't watch a ton of it. So I'm like, whatever, guys. And then, the algorithm, it just starts showing me you. And so I can't get away. And I'm like, dude, what is this guy doing? Like, this is ridiculous. Like half the things I see you do, right? Yeah. And then I start to become super intrigued. I'm like, dude, I actually like following him more than I like following anyone else just because it's so entertaining. And I just want to see what you're going to do next. So, and this is why I'm going to bring it back to marketing. Well, I start watching you for about a month, right? And every day I see you do the same thing. You get your food and you're like, well, Liver King's going to have this, and then we're going to have a whole feast. Yeah. And you smack the protein. Yeah. And then you're like, we're always going to get our, supplements and our Liver King bar and all this stuff. Yeah. And, I watch it for a month. And finally, I'm just like, whatever. I'm going to try raw liver and I'm going to buy the supplements and I'm just going to try it out. Like if you just market so much, you are forced to do it. Yeah. So anyways, I go to the grocery store and first store I go to, I go, hey, you guys got raw liver? And they're like, no, we're sold out. And I'm like, man, who's that? Like liver's not even a popular meat. People don't even like it, So then I go to another grocery store. They're like, no, we're sold out. And like one of the guys comments to me and he goes, dude, I don't know why, but like there's like no liver. And I'm like, this guy is literally making liver sold out nationwide. Yeah. This is insane. So I go to a third store. Finally, they have a frozen liver. And I'm like, it's not what I'm looking for. Definitely doesn't look like what Liver King Chef Lionel makes, but I'm gonna grab this and I'm going to just do it in the office and thaw it out and eat it raw. So it was like a pound of liver. I think I DM'd you this. It was a pound of liver. I ate about 8 ounces of it first try. It was disgusting because it was just thawed out. Definitely didn't look like Chef Lionel's, but I powered through it and I ate it, and then I ate it again the next day. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna buy the ancestral supplements instead. This is far easier to do. But I just couldn't get enough liver. That was the moral of the story.
Do you remember how it made you feel? Did it make any difference?
It was only 2 days, so it was hard to say.
Yeah, a lot of people can tell the same day, and it depends on what your nutrient status is. But this is the wildest thing. This is why I like bringing liver onto a podcast, because a lot of times people will try it, and this is the nourishment we evolved with for millions of years. Most people have never had this nourishment at all in their lives, and they start eating it, and the light comes on, and I don't have to sell them anything. That's why I always say the name is Liver King because liver is king. You're talking about the marketing aspect of it, how compelling it was for you to go and to do this thing.
I had to see it so many times, and I was like, you know what? I'll try it. I'll just do it.
Yeah. And this all harkens back to my why in the world. Is my kids couldn't breathe. They were anaphylactic. They were having these allergic reactions so severe they were going by ambulance trips to the hospital. And then we realized, okay, we know how to fix this. This is our obligation to share this with the world. And so many other people are hurting on this continuum with depression, anxiety, infertility, autoimmune conditions, you name it. I'm like, we have a job to do. And so if we're going to get this ancestral message out, I got to do everything I possibly can to do this job right. And so I'm like, okay, so I'm going to say in a 1 minute reel or story, Liver King here, because liver is king. Liver King's having this, Liver King out. You just heard Liver King 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
And I try and make sure people always know because liver is king. You know, that's really the message behind it. And I'm glad that you went to the grocery store. And you went to 3 different grocery stores. And I always say, you know what, like if you can go on a hunt, there's nothing better. That kind of connection with the land and the animal and to take the liver from that sacred experience, there's nothing better than this. But most people won't do it. So I'll say, okay, go to the butcher. If you're not going to go to the butcher, go to the grocery store. If you're not going to do that, go get some capsules somewhere. A lot of people don't want to mess with any of it. They don't want to take, and you know the texture is not the best.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, like, oh, I can't get past the texture. And for anybody having trouble getting the real deal from the grocery store and can't get it down, partially frozen, a little bit of maple syrup, a little bit of salt on it. I call it candied liver. It's delicious. It's delicious.
I didn't know that. I was eating it raw.
Well, it's still raw. Well, it's partially frozen. It's still raw.
Okay.
Right. And it's. Have you ever had frozen cherries before?
No, frozen strawberries.
Well, there's a pretty decent texture to that. It's a little crunchy and powdery, not as like slimy and difficult to chew through. And so once again, it's like this is the hierarchy of how you should get it: hunt, butcher, grocery store. If you're not going to do any of that, somebody makes the equivalent. Yeah. And a capsule. And so this is one of the most, like when you know your why, your purpose, like why you exist, I got to find a good way to market this lifestyle.
Right.
And so I would say, if I'm talking about the whole, it's called the Whole Feast protein shake. I remember the first time I was like, yeah, I'm going to have a whole Feast protein shake. And then I watched the video. I'm like, you know what? I don't see.
That doesn't make me want to drink one.
It didn't make me. Yeah. And so I'm like, how do I improve on this? How do I course correct? And I would say this is one of my superpowers in business is fire, aim. Fire. It's like I just take massive action, course correct along the way. But immediately, I'm looking at what did I do and how can I be better?
Yeah. No, I think it's great. Just the marketing aspect of how you've brought about all of these supplements and things in a cool way, right? Because I think where people screw up in marketing is they just make it very salesy, right? They're like, hey, buy my stuff, here it is, blah, 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 right? You're just doing it in a very nonchalant, entertaining way. Like, it's definitely not pushy. You're not saying, hey, buy the whole feast. You're just like, I always eat a whole feast. I always do this, I do that. And you do, right? So it's not like lying about any, it's just like, this is what I do, and it's there.
I want to share two things about that. When I don't smack the whole feast, you know how many DMs I get?
People are pissed.
What happened to the whole feast? Why did you not smack the whole feast? And then I said 2 things. I don't remember the first thing. Something about marketing. It'll come back to me.
Yeah. So I've watched all that. I've thought it's genius. And I just started to think, like, where did this guy learn to do this, right? Because, you don't look like a big marketer guy, right? And then the more I hear you speak, the more I'm like, this guy's actually like a savant with marketing. And so what made me really curious was when I saw the more plates, more dates thing, when you had said, hey, I'm gonna have 1 million followers by this date. Like, I already know I am, and you didn't have anything yet. And that was when I was like, I knew it. I knew this guy, like, he knew exactly how the path to get there, because I was the same way. I started social media in 2020, and I looked at it as a business guy. I had already had a ton of business success, and I go, well, let's reverse engineer this. Okay, if I want to get 1 million followers on TikTok, here's what I got to do. I got to make this many YouTube videos. I got to claim my niche. Here's my message, my purpose I want to spit out there, and it worked. And I see many really big guys do that. A guy I see you always reference is Hormozy, like good buddy of mine, and just to see him systematically do it the same way. And when I saw you send that email, I was like, I want to know what he was doing before on the marketing side that gave him like the foresight to know how to do this. And I think a lot of people want to know that.
Yeah, I'll tell you that when you know your why in the world and your fight, where to point your energy and why, you won't sleep until you figure that out.
Right.
Like, you have this obligation to do more, to do better, to not sleep until this gets done. And you know how many kids just have nutrient deficiencies that are being diagnosed with X, Y, and Z and are suffering somewhere along this continuum just because they don't know to eat liver? There's so many stories that we get related to this. There's people that are trapped in their own home with severe anxiety and chronic fatigue that haven't left their house in years. And I saw this lady at Jeep Week, this lady Cindy, and her husband was actually mad at me. I was pulling a Barbarian, and he goes, "Yeah, I tried your stuff, it didn't work." Oh, here we go. Because I'm doing Barbarian. I'm like, I don't want to do this right now. Hey, but my wife, it works for my wife. And then Cindy, she tells me I haven't been out of the house in 2 years. But I started doing this liver stuff. And it's wild how many, this is not a panacea, right? I think the 9 ancestral tenets is a panacea, but liver by itself is not. But liver's a low lever that's going to make such a huge difference in life. So what I would say is like, man, when you know your why in the world, and when you really know where to point your energy, you figure out everything else.
Right.
And from a marketing standpoint, there was a time where we struggled in business for about a decade in the dental business, and once again, you got to figure all that out too.
Right.
And so I think a lot of it just comes down to, this is what I have to do.
Right.
I have to figure this out, and I'm not going to sleep until I figure it out.
Yeah, I can tell you, for me, I looked at social media and I was like, well, this is the way of the future. I'm an introvert by nature. I don't want to be out on camera doing all this stuff, but I know I have to, because like you said, my why is so much bigger, right? Like, I need to tell people this message, like real estate can change your life, right? Like, you can be an entrepreneur, you can start a business. You don't have to settle for working a W-2. You don't have to settle for grinding it out 16-hour days for no pay and not to see any kind of end in sight, right? I think with what you're trying to do with helping people on their physical journey and also reshifting their mindset for what's possible, like, I think as an entrepreneur, it does start with your physical being, right? Like, dude, if you're out of shape and you're not feeling good and you're sluggish, and like, it directly impacts everything you do in business.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. A huge thrust behind that why is, when I was 10 to 15 years old, I had zero self-worth. These were the toughest years of my life. I know what it feels like to be a teenager, a young man with no direction, with no self-worth. I know what it feels like to have kids that aren't thriving. I know what this stuff feels like, and like, I have to do this. I have to figure this out. And if I don't have 1 million followers by this day, then what am I doing? Yeah. I mean, I left CEOing another company, so that I could go pursue this. And I'll tell you, a huge piece of this was we would have people come over and visit us and say, "Holy shit, you do all this stuff? You sleep like this, you eat like this, you move like this, you cold plunge like this, you bond like this. Like, you got to go on social media."
And no one knew who you were. You were just doing this stuff.
And you hear this enough times, and you start to think, you don't realize what you do every day is different than what everyone else does. This is just how you live. And like I said, like, we just kind of live at this compound. We don't really go out and do a whole lot of interacting. But you hear that enough times, and you hear enough people say, "Hey, man, they should make a documentary about you." I'm like, okay, you know what? I have to get this message out. My previous vehicle to doing that was creating these ancestral companies to teach the 9 ancestral tenets. Right now we have 10, we're going to 100. We'll have 100 of these companies. So we have 90 on the horizon. This is still how we're going to get there. So in parallel to that, I said, how can I do something drastically different? Because these companies are going to happen. How can I do something drastically different to get this why out in the world, to acknowledge that how desperately people are hurting, and there's a simple solution called ancestral living. Most of it's free. It's accessible to everybody. It'll change your life tomorrow. And if I don't have 1 million followers by March 2nd, then what am I doing this for? I have to do this. And so I will say, yes, there's no doubt that we've embellished a lot of stuff along the way. But Pomp asked me, you drew a line in the sand, and Brian Johnson's over here, Liver King's over here. I'm like, you know what? Most of the stuff we were already doing. We weren't having these big extravagant dinners. We're still eating raw liver, raw testicle, raw eggs. Like, we're still doing all this, but there's no doubt that we ratcheted it up.
Yeah. So before, the launch of Liver King, right? Obviously you were preparing to do this and, get the 1 million followers and everything else that would happen thereafter. I know you had the dental business, which you talked about. That was trial and error. When did the supplement company come into the fold?
This was around 2015. 2014 was like, okay, I got this idea. And then around 2015, I started to developing. I'm pretty sure it went live in 2016.
And then you just developed these supplements yourself based on how you guys were living? Like, what was the process?
Yeah. You know what's interesting? The first product was called Tooth Restore. This is why my wife was practicing at the time. Patients would come and say, "Hey, just fix me." And she'd say, no, we got to address the root cause. The root cause is what you're eating. And what you need is the fat-soluble vitamins. You need vitamin A from liver. You need K2 from bone marrow. You need egg yolk, and you need some midday sun. Most people would say, just fix my teeth.
But she knew that because you guys were already doing that.
we were doing a lot of research, how we recovered our kids, their health crisis. We learned about ancestral living, and then we learned about Weston A. Price, nutrition and physical degeneration. There's a whole lot of milestone publications.
So you were just a normal dude before that?
Yeah.
Did you have a beard and all that stuff? Were you clean cut?
Oh, I was corporate, Brian. I mean, clean cut, shaved head.
Were you still jacked?
I was pretty muscular. I was 175 pounds.
175? I mean, I'm 175. So did you look like me or you were way bigger?
Well, we're about to release all the vintage stuff. Apparently there's a leak and we're going to release all that vintage stuff. Right now I'm 195 pounds.
Okay.
And so we knew that the fat-soluble vitamins and mechanical loading can really recover people from their dental issues, but nobody wanted to deal with this stuff. So we said, okay, you know what? Maybe we can put this in a supplement. So I started to figure out, okay, how do you do this? How am I going to do this? And I tried to hire consultants and nobody wanted to help me out with anything. And I was like, okay, I'll figure this out one step at a time. And as I'm learning more about this, I said, you know what, this idea is way bigger than this. This is about ancestral living, the 9 ancestral tenets. What I want to go sell is this lifestyle, and somewhere along this continuum, it's sleep, eat, move, shield, connect, cold, sun, fight, and bond. These are these 9 ancestral tenets. So the second one is eat, and so what we eat obviously affects everything we do. And so what we're trying to do is get people to eat liver, bone marrow, and egg yolks and get midday sun. People aren't wanting to do that. And so that's when I realized, you know what, like, if they're not going to eat it, let's see if we can put it in a capsule, and let's see if they'll start to try that. And when people started to try that, they could see the difference. They could see the energy happen. They could see, it takes a while to see oral health benefits, but a lot of people with sensitive teeth, their teeth are no longer sensitive after about 2 weeks of eating this way. Yeah. And so when you started to get like we'd have about an 80% repurchase rate, like without a nurture system.
Yeah, with no follow-ups or anything. They're just going to the website and buying.
And I was like, oh my God, this is going to work. This is going to work. And so that's when I said, okay, we got to do more of these companies to get the message out.
Do you remember like what you were making in the early days of launching that company?
Nothing. I mean, I remember.
I guess when did you start making money? Like after starting this company?
Yeah, somebody told me the numbers the other day, and I would say like the first year we probably made like 1.2 million or something like that.
But that's a lot of money, unless you're saying you just re-spent it all.
It grew so fast that like the first PO I placed, it cost me like $7,000 for the first PO that I placed.
Right.
It sold so fast that the second PO was like 28,000. And so anything I made had to go into that. But then I remember the PO after that, I hadn't made enough to cover that PO. So now there's another credit card. And so the way that we were developing the product line, I was spending more money to develop the line and to put in POs. It was about a year and a half before we started taking profits. And I remember when we had to hire our first guys, I was so mad that they were going to get money and I couldn't get any money, because we had just come from struggling for about 10 years in the dental business. I'm like, it's time for us to start to make some money. But I saw how successful this was going to be, and I was like, okay, we'll be patient. We'll do what we need to do. We need to hire a team. So we hired the team, and I would say after about a year and a half, we were making about $30,000. We were taking home about $30,000 a month, and I was like, oh, you know what? We're going to be pretty good now.
Yeah.
So that was about a year and a half in.
Real quick, if you haven't heard, my book, The Wealthy Way, is coming out December 13th. I have been working on this book for years, and I'm super excited about it, and I want to have a massive launch, and I need your help. So here's what we are going to do. You can actually pre-order the book on Amazon right now on the Kindle version. And the best part is that Kindle version is only going to be 99 cents. Now, this book is a lot more valuable than 99 cents, but I want to get it in everyone's hands. So you can support by ordering it there right now. Now, on December 13th, you can get access to the paperback, you can get access to the Audible and all that good stuff. But that's not all we're doing. If you want to really support and leave a review for the book, I'm actually going to be giving away a free course that I created called Business Builder Academy. This is teaching everyone how to start a business from start to scratch, how to figure out your branding, your products, sales, marketing, everything that I've done to start up all of my businesses. I've put into this academy, and I'm gonna give it to you completely free as long as you leave a review on Amazon. So think about it. You can go buy the book for $1, leave a review, and get a course worth thousands. So If you want to support and you want to get access to that, go to wealthywaybook.com, okay? wealthywaybook.com. You'll be able to go pre-order it. You'll be able to submit proof of your review, and you're gonna get access to that course. So I appreciate all you guys. Let's have a huge launch for this book and change some lives. And then how did it scale from there?
Scale in terms of like revenue or?
Revenues and like actually like making some real serious money.
Yeah, man, it's hard. What I'll tell you now, so I have a handful of companies. This is the first one that we're talking about. We're at a run rate now where we'll do 60 million, just over 60 million annually with this company.
Okay. This is just ancestral supplements, or just the whole ancestral everything?
Just ancestral supplements.
Okay.
But I would say like every year we've pretty much doubled.
Right.
And if we haven't doubled, we grew by about 50%.
How did you keep up with the demand of the Liver King brand? Because I mean, that had to skyrocketed it.
I wish I could say it did. You know, we have such a sophisticated lead generation system that this was one of several.
Right.
You know, and it's like, okay, if this is one of several, the contribution is almost insignificant.
So how were you marketing before Liver King to get users? Were you just running Facebook ads, YouTube ads? What were you doing?
You know what's wild is I didn't. I knew how to do some of that stuff from the dental days.
Yeah.
Here's how I did the marketing: is I put a product out on Amazon, and then I would send an email, you know, to everyone who purchased, and I didn't know about these email systems. Yeah. I would type the email to them, and
so you were learning copywriting.
And I would ask them, you know, hey, would you mind sharing why you purchased this product? I would love to know. Then they would share back whatever their health crisis was, and then I would say, oh my God, you know, I know a little bit about this. And at this point, let's say after a few months in, I've read now so many beneficial anecdotes. I'm like, you know, a lot of other people have been helped through the same health crisis. There's hope for you too. We would talk a little bit about that, and at the end, I would say, I can't wait to talk to you again in 10 days. This was my marketing: is me sending emails and me nurturing them, just me, along the way. And you know, I didn't leave the house for years. This was all I was doing for years.
You just work out, write emails. Just do that over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, and like if my kid wanted to leave the house to go do something for a party, I had to tell him I can't do it. You know, mom's gonna have to take you. And so this happened for a long time. So this was my primary way of marketing, was really just taking care of the customer. And you know what's wild is this stuff works. Glandulars work. Nose to tail nourishment works. And when you can have somebody help guide them, and you're not just telling them about nose to tail stuff. Like, let's say somebody comes to you with high blood pressure. So I'm sending an email, I'd love to know why you bought it. They bought the heart product. I bought it because I have high blood pressure and I'm worried about maybe having heart issues down the road. Thank you so much for coming here. You know, a lot of people have also had success with a heart product. You know what else really works well? Getting sun, taking off your shoes, grounding with the earth, holding your wife's hand, taking in the sunset. You try those things.
Just giving them value, even though it doesn't make you any money at all.
These 9 ancestral tenets.
Yep.
Again, at the end of the day, this whole thing's about selling the ancestral vision.
Right.
And you give people that kind of value that works, not only do they come back to you, but they tell everybody.
Yeah, I've seen that from social media myself, because, you know, when I first got on, people were like, dude, you're just going to tell them everything, you know, without them buying something from you? Like, if you tell them everything, why would they buy from you? I'm like, bro, just give them value. That's just value, 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 and expect nothing in return. If you do, something weird happens. They just buy from you anyway. And it's happened in my career over and over again. And I'm like you, I want to just launch more and more products. We're going to go acquire businesses this year. And, you know, the supplement business is something that's like, obviously extremely high margin, but also very difficult to break into because there's so many supplements and everything.
Yeah,
and so to stand out, you really do have to sell something different, which I think you are, right? It is about the mission and the purpose that's completely different.
100%. I mean, I have people all the time that say, I want to do what you do. And I'm like, cool, you know, because I need your help. You trust me, we won't be competitors. You'll be my best alliance. If you can help me get this message out, this is what I need more than anything. And you know, they seem a little bit shocked. And I'm like, here's the issue. If you don't know your why in the world, if you don't really care about doing this, this is never going to work. When you can take care of customers like that, and they feel that kind of benefit, then they'll write back and they'll tell you everything. And then all you have to say back is, thank you so much for sharing. The world needs to hear this. You know how many other people you can help? Please tell everyone around you, and please leave a review. And what they go and do is they leave a review. And if you go on Amazon and you search the reviews, there's tens and thousands of reviews that are exceptional. I mean, we're the highest reviews. And what it takes is really understand. I only hire true believers that have been through health crisis, that have recovered their health crisis through ancestral living. So a true believer comes into my company. They can give you one-of-a-kind guided experience like nobody else can because they believe in it.
Right.
So you take care of somebody like that, and nose to tail nourishment works. These 9 ancestral tenets work. A lot of times we don't even make a product suggestion. Somebody comes to us, with like a neurocognitive issue. Like we're talking about doing ketosis, egg yolks, maybe get cold. And they want to know, well, hold on. I came to you for a product suggestion. Aren't you going to recommend brain? Hey, listen, if you want to try brain, cool. But what you really need is the fundamental stuff. Liver does work. So if you want a product suggestion, start with liver. Liver is king. But you got to do these other things. And guess what? We're going to follow up with you in 10 days. Whether you follow up with us or not, we're coming to ask you how you doing in 10 days. We're going to hold you accountable to doing these things. In 10 days, hey, how you doing? Oh, I haven't tried anything. Oh, you haven't tried anything? Because you were suffering with this when you came to us. Are you still suffering with this? If there's still something, hey, we're right here for you. And if you don't really give a shit about people, you can't pay somebody to go write these emails. They have to come from that place where they've recovered a health crisis of their own or somebody in their family where they believe so deeply that they're doing this for the right reasons.
Right. And that's the thing I can tell with you, man, is that, and you're not the only one. I've talked to multiple guys who've gone through their fair share of controversy, right? Like I just did an interview with Cardone. A lot of people don't like Cardone for just various reasons, right?
I love him.
Yeah.
For the record.
For the record. So, a lot of people don't like him for various reasons, right? And when I get to talk to him, behind the scenes, off camera, like we've talked, I can tell, like, dude, this guy truly believes everything he's saying. Like, it's not saying it to just go make more money. Yeah, it's going to make him more money, absolutely. But he truly believes in his message. And that's why he pushes so hard, even into his 60s, right? And even as I'm talking to you, right, it's so easy for people to be like, well, he did steroids. I can't believe anything he says, therefore everything doesn't make sense, right? And to me,
I just want to say back to that, I deserve all of it.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be loyal to me, but you got to be loyal to the facts that 4,000 people a day actually kill themselves, 80,000 people a day try to do it, and somewhere along the continuum, people are hurting at record rates with depression, anxiety, infertility. 40% of the population will get cancer. 20% of the population wants to have kids and can't have kids. Like, we're hurting at record rates. So you don't got to believe this guy, but you got to believe these facts, these statistics, and there's a simple way to live. It's called ancestral living. So don't come to me, like, if you feel like, oh, hey, you burned that bridge, man. You need to go to Andrew Huberman. You need to go to Ben Greenfield. Go to Paul Saladino. Go to the other CEOs of the ancestral lifestyle because you need to get better. And I think that's where, like, I wish I could take all the credit for being a marketing savant. But when you fucking care so deeply to make this thing happen, the extra money that we get is going into building these businesses to sell ancestral living.
Yeah.
We're not going into. Well, we talked about real estate. Maybe we get to some real estate. But right now we don't have any of that stuff going. Right. The monies that come in is like, how do we launch 90 more companies in different categories, and so meet people where they're at in their respective discipline. If you got a dental issue, we hope that you go to Strongjaw. And Strongjaw will have a dentist as a figurehead, a functional dentist that's going to tell you about these 9 ancestral tenets. You've not heard this before. Yeah. And people think brushing and flossing is going to fix their oral health issues.
Right.
This is not how you fix it.
Yeah.
And so, again, I know that there's some clever stuff that we do in marketing, but when you know that you have to get this message out, you will find a way. You'll find 14 ways to do it. And then when I hear, oh, we didn't do it. We're supposed to grow by this much, but we didn't do it. And when we talk about growth, I know that you know this sort of stuff, but like money is a proxy for the value that we create in the world.
Yeah.
And so I look at how much are we growing quarter over quarter? How are we that's a proxy for how are we getting this message out? Right. And if we're not hitting this growth rate, what are we doing wrong? Well, give me 14 other ways we can do this. And sometimes they need me to say, I'll never accept anything short of getting to the goal. You guys already know this. And I talked to all the CEOs and I said, the CEOs, they have tough jobs, but what they always need to be asking is, do we have the right people, true believers, right? Do we have the right people in the right positions, doing the right things for the right reasons? And if you have a resounding yes, and you create that culture and the chemistry, and as a CEO, you reconnect. We only hire true believers, right? So you got to reconnect them to the why. You're here because you couldn't have kids. Now you have a kid. Right. You're here because you had cancer. And you were given 6 months and Now you're here in 2 years. You were here because you had Crohn's and you were hospitalized. Ancestral living returned you to a kick-ass life. I'm going to remind you guys, reconnect you guys. We're going to read some of these reviews. This is why we're here. We got a job to do. So you're going to figure out 14 other ways to market.
Are you the CEO of the parent company?
No, I don't CEO any of our companies. I do want to make that clear because a lot of people are like, I don't want to support his company. Listen, I hope you continue to support my company. What you're doing is supporting the ancestral lifestyle. I don't CEO any companies
So you're just in the owner's box now.
That's right.
Just the face. That's it.
Right.
So with that being said, I agree. One of the things we teach on this podcast and everything is just, first off, starting with your core values when you're hiring people, right? If you don't hire the right people in the right seats, you're going to be in trouble, right? And if they don't fit your values, you're going to be in trouble. And if they don't have a desire to work there, you're going to be in trouble. And so it's interesting hearing you talk about this from a business perspective, because everything you're saying is all the same things successful business people do. And it's no wonder, everything has been as successful as it has so quickly. So I definitely can see that, from the outside looking in. And I can tell you too, I've used the supplements, and they're good. I've used them, and I don't get any affiliates or anything for that, but it's just, I like trying new things as an athlete. I'm always trying new supplements. I'm always trying, I've never had to worry about my testosterone until now. Now I'm 33. I'm like, I should probably start thinking about getting tested. I had never been tested, in literally my entire life, really. So I'm starting to think a lot more about my health as I get older now. So
how are you feeling? I mean, I'm like, look, if you feel good, you look good, you're kicking ass.
Yeah.
Why test anything? And on the other hand, if you're like, man, I'm not kicking ass like I used to. Well, hell yeah, go get tested. Go talk to someone who knows their shit. Yeah. So how are you feeling?
I feel great. I still, I'll still go in the gym. I'll put up 225 on the bench 8 times, and that's my measure. That's what I used to do when I play. I still do it, and I'm like, I still got my strength. I'm good.
Because I know that you know this too. I mean, because you do all the business podcasts. People want to know let's talk about lead generation. Let's talk about conversions. Let's talk about nerd. Let's talk about this whole cycle of stuff. And I'm like, how are you doing? Yeah. The pyramid can only be built as big as the base. How's your base? How's your sleep? How do you eat? How do you move? How much energy do you have? When I talk about this whole continuum of how people are hurting, one thing I talk about is people have low energy in life. And man, if you don't have energy, do you know what it's like to not have energy? Have you ever been in that category?
I've been tired when I was playing, but for the most part, I've been pretty healthy, dude. I've avoided, depression and, I've always taken good care of myself, and I've always slept well. And, I remember I got one of those Oura rings to track how well I was sleeping. And it was like, dude, you get 2+ hours of deep sleep every night. You're killing, they're like, you're killing it. So I've done a good job, I feel like.
Yeah. Well, I just think it's so important when people start talking about some of these minor things, which are important things to do. You get the major stuff right. You get your why in the world right. You get these 9 ancestral tenets right. It's going to help you to produce your highest and most dominant form personally, but especially in business.
Yeah.
So I'm like, and I'll tell you what, I know what it felt like to have really shitty energy for years. I was overtraining like nobody's business.
I've seen you talk about that.
And I would come home and I would get on the couch and I would just sit there. And I knew she would walk up to me, and I knew what she was going to do. She was going to say, hey, do you want to go to the park with the kids? And I don't have any energy just to get up and go to the park with the kids.
Why? So I saw you mention this on a podcast that you want to work out 2 to 3 times a day, and you're trying to scale that back now to once a day. Do you just think you're addicted?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I'm addicted. If I don't do it, I look at myself in the mirror. I'm like, hey man, you didn't earn it. You're not worth it. You're not good enough. And when I do crush myself, what I've done today is actually insane. If you knew the workout that I had earlier this morning, and then when we got back, we went to a plastic surgeon today.
For what?
So that he could do a full assessment on me if I have ab implants or ab etching, which has been a rumor going around. Right? I'm like, you know what? I got the chance to come clean on everything. I don't have ab implants. I don't have ab etching. And the world needs to hear this because people are saying, he lied about this other thing. He's still lying about this. So we went to a plastic surgeon, one who specializes in this. So we come back.
We are in LA, so.
In Beverly Hills,
yeah.
The best plastic surgeons.
Yeah.
And so we come home and it's like, okay, we know when we get home that dinner can be no sooner than 1 hour from the time we get home because I got to work for an hour. I got to work out for an hour, and then once I've done enough push-ups and we have this Vitruvian machine, enough working out. Once I've done enough, I'm like, I could do that. Now I can eat. And it's beyond addicted. Like, okay, well, why are you addicted to it? I know that I have to overtrain to feel good enough about myself to earn it. And I know that harkens back to some other really deep stuff that I got to deal with, that I got to face. I'm going to deal with all that. But I'll tell you what, in the meantime, like, I also have to look at myself in the mirror. And I need to feel good about myself so that I can be good at my other roles and goals. This is something I'm dealing with right now.
What do you think is going to help you get past it?
Fuck, man. The other day, somebody's like, why do you have to do it? Why do you have to constantly overtrain? And I started talking about like my 10 to 15-year-old days. I was in the car. I asked myself this. I'm driving in the car to go do my apology video. And I asked myself this question because I'm thinking people are going to keep asking why. And I asked myself why, and I started telling the story of my 10 to 15-year-old self, and I started crying by myself in the car.
Right.
Like, holy shit, like there's an opportunity to go really deep here and to address this. And so I think there's a whole lot of things that I'm going to have to do. I don't know the answer. Right now I'm taking it day by day, so I know that I have to get right with not being in the gym 2 to 3 times a day. And that's going to be a huge catalyst to be really dealing with the root cause.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because I'm very blunt. And so when people try to give excuses for why they can't do something, it's usually not doing too much, right? Yeah. It's usually like, I'm like, bro, you need to just work out. Like, get in the gym at least 3 times a week. Like, I'm not asking you to go change the world. Just go to the gym 3 times a week. Like, oh, well, I got kids. I got this going on, my business. And I'm like, dude, it's just not a priority to you. Like, make it a priority and you will get it done, right? And it's just as simple as that. I'm like, if it's never like a strong enough why, you will never do it, right? And on this end of the spectrum, with what I'm hearing from you, it's very similar to what I hear from entrepreneurs who overwork. They're like, yeah, I work 16 hours a day. I want to work less so I can spend time with my family. And this is my why, by the way. Like, I just recently wrote a book called The Wealthy Way. It's been the #1 book in entrepreneurship right now. And it's literally for that reason. People who are overworking, overtraining in your case, where I'm like, why do you even do it? Like, your family doesn't even see you. You're saying you work for your family, but they don't see you. Yeah. Like, you don't work for your family, you work for you, right? And when I hear you say that, and you're like, well, yeah, this is causing stress, obviously in your own body, but with your wife and everything else, I'm like, well, why do you do it then? Like, why not just work out once a day? Like, logically, you're like going from the other end of the spectrum where you don't have to do it. Yeah.
Well, it's like the guys that overwork, right? Like, well, what are we compensating for? Why do we have to feel like we have to do that? I mean, I don't know if. God, man, I remember growing up, I wanted so many things that other people had, and we couldn't afford to have those things. And then I remember getting older, I'm like, I'm going to get those things. I mean, you know that feeling, you know that drive, and then you can control your outcomes in the gym, and then other people see worth and value and potential in you physically. Yep. And then they want to start talking about this stuff, and you see it start to open other opportunities, and then you know that you can achieve, you know you can do anything. And there's no doubt I've overcome. Here's what's also been dangerous. It's like, I know what my role, I don't pick a lot of roles in my life. I'm like, I always say that your primary role is to be my primary role is to be a dominant man, to express my highest, most dominant form as a man. And then I have these other roles, to be a dominant father, to be a dominant husband, to be dominant as a CEO of the ancestral lifestyle. And then I'll tell you that there's 4, right? And then after that, I'm like, I'm not really, my role as a friend, as a son, as a brother, I don't do good at those roles. I know that those are roles that I have in my reality, but I don't invest in those because I got these other 4 that I can do really good at. I know I'm a great dad. I know I'm a good husband. I know that I'm good at, listen, if I need to look at myself in the mirror and say, hey, you made progress today, that's what I got to go and do in the gym. And then this is sort of the dangerous thing, I think, as that role overlaps with the CEO of the ancestral lifestyle, I'm like, oh, I have more time to do this in the gym also now. because I'm on camera and making content.
Yeah, you justify it.
I'm going to do more of that, and so I don't know how I'm going to fix this yet. To me, it never occurred to me that this was actually a major problem. And even my wife, she supported me with it. When we go away, I'm like, hey, I don't know, I got to go work out again. I don't know why. You don't feel like it? She's like, no. She's just like, go. She's like, go, just go do it. Then I go do it, and I'm in a great mood. I'm in a good mood. And so there was a time when I know that I got that fix in when we were working.
Yeah.
And then there's something that happened.
So you basically, once you got big enough to not have to be sending the emails like you did, were you working out 3 times a day when you're sending emails?
Oh no, I couldn't.
Yeah.
So first of all, prior to that I was, but now I'm sending emails, and the pressure that you have when somebody's waiting on you. And I was like, and I knew I had an opportunity. Somebody sends me an email. How often do you get an email back in 10 or 15 minutes? I'm here for you.
Yeah.
At 10 o'clock at night, you're going to send me an email and you have some sort of anemia issue that no one can figure out. And you want me to help you at 10 o'clock at night. I'm going to help you at 10 o'clock at night.
Right.
And so I felt this pressure to do that. During this period, there's no way I could go do 3 1-hour workouts a day. So I would find the times to do micro workouts. I still had to do that, but I'll tell you, that was not nearly as important to me as it was before that and after that.
Yeah. So the Liver King persona has definitely made it worse.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I guess it sounds like to me, and I think this is with most addicts, you have to really replace it with something else that's meaningful.
So. Yeah. And you know what? I would love to be a better friend, a better brother, better son. Yeah. I'm like, maybe that's part of it. Is like, okay, these are other roles that are really important in my life that I've neglected, and maybe I can pour more energy into those roles.
Do you have any hobbies? Beyond just the ancestral stuff? I know you like to hunt and do all that, but do you have any hobbies beyond? Do you play sports? Do you?
I mean, the kids like to go wake surfing, and I'll wake surf with them. We enjoy snowboarding.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll go snowboarding. We got a couple of trips set up to do that together. But man, if you saw my routine, I'm like a robot.
Do you watch movies and stuff? No. Do you do?
Well, I shouldn't say that. We spend 40 minutes a day together watching something in the movie room. So we do. They're normally have you ever seen the show Alone?
Yeah,
that's a great show. Mountain Men, or we'll watch a Marvel movie or something like that. So we do, but more than anything, that's for me to be to hang out with the kids.
Yeah, I'm putting everything away. I'm hanging with the fam.
Yeah, but other than that, man, and my wife and I do mushrooms on Saturday.
There you go.
And I'll tell you, if we don't do mushrooms, it's the exact same thing, the exact same workout schedule in front of the computer. Figuring out how do I make progress as a CEO of the Ancestral Lifestyle. How are these businesses doing? How can I help these businesses? How can I drive the Liver King? And so it's if I actually don't have mushrooms to detach from that, every day is the same. Right. And so I'm oh, what a gift this is. When we get to hang out and just do that, I'm so obsessive and driven to do this that I know that this is part of it. If I can help to find other roles that are really important in my life and reallocate energy to that, I'm sure it'll help me out.
Yeah, that's the one thing I've seen with, it's like the curse of being successful. You're so driven to do the one thing that you just are called to do, and it comes at the expense of everything else, right? And it's until something else becomes as important as whatever else you're doing, it will always just push everything else to the side.
Yeah, that completely makes sense. And for a long time, I absolutely neglected my role as father and husband. And then somewhere along the way, I made it really clear to myself what my roles are. And I'm not going to go 10 years and then regret I wasn't there to raise my boys. And somewhere along this timeline, I said, I'm not leaving the house. The kids are homeschooled. I'm not leaving the house. I'm going to be with them 24/7. They're going to come to all the traveling. They're going to learn all this stuff. We're going to do all this together. And we'll go on trips for 4, 5, 6, 7 days together. I'm I felt like the best dad in the world. And then, we have this 1 hour at dinner. We go over philosophy for the day. We get into some really deep conversations. I'm I did a good job today. And I get to build on that. And so I knew I had fallen short there. And thank God, I don't even know how I got the insight. It's probably from my wife. She probably said, hey, you're not really around very much.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, let me build my life so I can be around. And so that's when I'm like, I think focus is a superpower of mine. Like, I'm not going to have any other distractions. I'm not going to leave here. Everything's going to come here. And that will give me more time to focus on these roles in my life.
How has your relationship with your wife changed now after just this whole steroid controversy?
I would say we're closer. It's not often that you get this kind of resistance in your life. This dropped me to my knees. I would say with my wife and my for my boys to see me, going through that. But the way that she looked at me, the way that she's been there for me, the way that she's handled all this, it's like, she's the best, man.
Yeah.
It's 100% brought us closer.
Yeah. I think so. The next phase for you is to just stop working out so much. That's going to be the next phase.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I mean,
I'm gonna hold you to it. Next time I see you, I'm gonna be like, hey, where you at? That's what I do. I'm like, hey, bro, if you're saying you're gonna do it, right? If we're gonna be primal, you got to do it, right? And if nobody's gonna hold you accountable, I'll hold you accountable. And so it's like, anytime I make a goal, and this, it's like, all right, what's the deadline? I understand with like getting off juice and stuff, there's a cycle to that. Like, you can't just go cold turkey, but how much you want to work out is purely mental, right? That has nothing to do with anything else.
Right.
And so it's like, hey, I want to see you do the things that you got to do to be even more successful, because it will make your message even go further. Like,
I believe you're right. I 100% believe that's right. And knowing that gives me more of a why, to know that. And when I'm not crushing myself, that I've tried taking off that second workout. And when I take off the second workout, I'll walk for about an hour and a half, getting sun. And I'll try and develop some of my ideas. And after like a week or two of doing that, I felt so good.
I bet you did.
I felt so good here. I mean, I'm moving better. But then, after about a week or two,
itch.
What I did is I would still go for the walk, and then I would go into the gym. So all I ended up doing was adding the walk.
Another kind of workout.
5-mile walk to this. And it's like, what am I doing? My commitment to you and to everybody is to make progress towards this, to transition from the 2 or 3 workouts a day. I'm still going to at least do one.
Yeah.
And when I think I might be able to do like a second, like Tabata set, just like a Tabata set of push-ups. I don't think a 5-minute second workout is going to do anything crazy, but I'm committing to making progress to doing this. And if you help hold me accountable,
all right,
I appreciate that.
Do you have a time frame on the workout side of things?
End of the year.
End of the year, you're going to start.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to hold you to it, dude. I'm going to be watching the stories. I'm going to be like, how many times I just saw him in the gym. This is the same day. What's he doing? I'm going to DM him and be like, dude, all right, we're going to do it.
All right. Sounds like a plan.
So, you talked about ideas, and you talked about a bunch of other businesses in the works. Like, how else do you push this message forward? What are you going to be doing?
Yeah. With the businesses or Liver King?
The business. Yeah, they're both.
Yeah. I really want to make sure there's 100 companies in 100 different categories so that we can reach people in every category of business. But and I know that the Liver King brand will go far. Right now we have a TV show deal that's being developed. And after all this came out, we called them right away to tell them, and they said, well, let's make the first episode on it, actually. And it's with a massive network. So we know that's going to be a big lever to getting this message out. Right. I think that one of the most important things to me is making sure that it's not just that the message goes mainstream. We need people to execute on the message. Like, people run up to me like, hey, Liver King, can we get a picture? I'm like, why is my name Liver King? Half of the people know it's because liver is king. And they're like, are you eating liver? Nope. You getting sun? You hanging out? You putting up? Nope. I'm like, okay, so if all I do is mindlessly entertain you, then I failed you.
Right.
I have to figure out a way to make my content compelling enough for you to take action on it so it changes your life. And so when it changes your life, you will tell all your friends and family, and they're going to want what you have.
Have you thought about doing like challenges or anything?
Like what? On social?
Yeah.
Like what?
Well, in business, when we want people to take action, we will do a challenge. And so maybe we'll do like, hey, we're going to do a 10-day challenge where, it's going to be something to help you get your first real estate deal. So day one, we're going to do this together. We're going to, cold call sellers. We're going to send emails. We're going to do all these things that help us get a deal. Day two, we're going to start talking to lenders and things like the fundamentals that are going to help you get there to getting a deal, right?
I love that.
And so for you, if the goal is, hey, I want everyone to have this ancestral lifestyle ingrained in their habits, it starts with day one, right? Dude, you guys would absolutely kill it from a marketing side if you said, hey, sign up for Liver King's 30-day challenge, right? And you did it all. And so you guys would get like a million emails just from the marketing side, but you would also go, day one, here's what we're doing. We're going out in the sun for 30 minutes, right? Mark if you did it. You don't have to do everything all at once, right? Day two, it's just to start ingraining them into the lifestyle.
I love that idea. Dom, Nate, can you guys execute on that by the end of the year?
By the end of no, it's a good New Year's resolution.
January 1st.
Everyone will do it, I promise you.
I love that idea because it's heartbreaking to me when people just, I mindlessly have entertained you. I'm part of the problem because our young people are so sedated and so distracted with screen stuff. It's like I've now become part of the problem. And now I got to do a better job.
It's just more entertainment than it is life change.
Yeah.
And I think the big key is if you do this challenge, at the end of it, have some kind of reward, right? What's the reward for me going through this? Why am I going to go eat all this raw liver, right? Well, the reward is you're going to get something special from you or something else, right? Not only are they going to feel better, hopefully they develop habits that are going to continue on long after the challenge. But if you give them something really good to strive for, I could see, like with your following, like at least hundreds of thousands of people doing it.
We're going to do it.
Yeah.
They're going to execute on it. By January 1st, we're rolling it out.
Yeah, the Liver King Challenge.
I love that idea. Something else we're working on to make sure that this thing works is I can't be the only CEO of the Ancestral Lifestyle. Right. We need hundreds of them building their respective communities. So we're working with some other massive figureheads to take over to do that. And we already have a couple guys in the works. I don't want to mention any names right now. I could tell you later. But people will know. People will know. They're like, oh my God, you got what a perfect guy to advance this message. So that's another big thing. It's like, I know I have a job to do, and I'm not going to stop doing this job. But it can't just be me. We need a lot of other people advancing this message. Yeah, no, I agree. I can tell you, I don't know all the 9 tenets off the top of my head, but just hearing most of them, I'm like, yeah, I mean, you need to sleep better. You need some sun. Like it's proven. You know what's wild about this is most people don't realize how important sun is to sleep better. So on the hierarchy of health, sleep is number one. That's why I have sleep, eat, move, shield, connect, cold, sun, fight, and bond. But sleep is number one on the hierarchy of health. The reason why I start with liver, though, because liver is king. You need to eat liver in order to sleep well. It's vitamin A, preformed vitamin A retinol that allows you to translate the signal from the sun to the brain to tell you what time of the day it is to set your biocircadian rhythm. And so people are like, okay, if sleep is number one, then why the hell is liver king? Well, that's why. But there's these simple things to do. I bet you're already doing a lot of them. And if you don't mind, I just want to tell you on sleep. Yep. Eat liver so that you can translate the signal from the sun to the brain. And then make sure that you get early morning sun through the eyes, on the face, on the skin. That sets your biocircadian rhythm. So your body knows when to be alert and awake versus sleepy and sleeping. Finish your last meal 3 to 4 hours before bed. Okay. Take in the sunset as the final environmental cue that the day is winding down. And then the worst thing you can do after that is go inside the house and have all the blue lights. That tricks your body and brain to thinking it's daytime all over again. Right. So put on those blue light blocking glasses or just have candles and stuff like that in the house, which is a really nice feeling to do. You start getting that stuff right with your sleep, and that's going to change everything. And then you're going to say, Liver King's not just an idiot. This guy knows something. So now I'm going to start eating liver. Now I'm going to do ancestral tenet 9, which is bond. I'm going to put down the phone a little bit more and have these kind of actual connections and thermal pressures. Ancestral tenet 6 is cold. These kind of thermal pressures, man. If you're ever not feeling good, you ever go take a cold shower? I've done it before. I mean, it'll get you lit up. Today I wasn't feeling good. We went for a swim. We were at some beach. We went for a swim and felt like $1 million. Have you ever collabed with that guy? What's his name? Wim Hoffman? I really want to. Yeah. Because he's headquartered in Poland, and my wife is from Poland. Oh. And she's like, I want to go do the mountain thing with Wim Hof. But she's the ice queen. I'll tell you, she gets in the cold plunge, 36 degree every day. Nothing. I do it twice a week. She does it every day. And when I do it twice a week, it is so hard. A cold shower's fine. But 36 degree continuous cooling cold plunge with no ambient warm up, this is a hard thing to do. But these 9 ancestral tenets work. We've been all over the world in Amazon, Africa, Mongolia to study modern day primitive culture tribes. They do these things naturally. They're kicking our ass in life. The kind of culture and chemistry and fulfillment that these guys have, and they don't have material possessions, man.
Right.
You know, and so it's like, if we can do, and they don't have modern day chronic conditions either.
Right.
They're robust, they're healthy, they're moving up until they die. This 80-year-old got trampled, he's a chief, he got trampled by an elephant, his leg is deformed, he's still running up and down mountains with a Maasai. And so I just want to say, these are things that are accessible to everybody to kick ass.
So my wife, she got diagnosed with low thyroid. And so we didn't want to put her on like pills or anything. So we went and saw a holistic doctor, and you know, she just got her test back again, and it was like, yeah, you know, she's got borderline celiac, you know, very close to that. And so she stopped eating bread for like the last 2 weeks, and she's like, I've never felt this good, like not eating bread. And you know, the more like you hear these stories of like all the processed food and everything else, and you're like, well, I mean, I'm used to it. And you don't really know how good you can feel. Because for her, she was like, I've just always felt like kind of tired all the time, and it just is who it is.
That's her normal.
Yeah.
And there's this better life to live, man, for everybody. We're barely scratching the potential of what we can do and feel. And you know, like when your life is full of love and laughter, there's this adventure and excitement to be had every day. And we better share that with the world. You know, there's this concept called like supports like. When somebody has a struggling thyroid, to go eat the thyroid of a healthy animal.
Really?
And this is also a gold standard in medicine. If somebody continues to have a struggling thyroid, they have natural desiccated thyroid. It's actually from the pharmacy. Or you could just go buy some thyroid that comes from desiccated thyroid from an animal. You still want to find the root cause, right? And if the root cause is celiac, under ancestral tenet 2, which is eat, you want to eat like our early ancestors, cut out the processed food, the liquid calories and the seed oils. This is not easy for a lot of people to do, right? But so many people are suffering with another root cause. Maybe they have a gluten intolerance,
Yep.
and it's manifesting in other ways. And again, I know this is a big umbrella. Most people aren't going to go out there and just say, okay, I'm done with processed food. It's not easy for people to do. Right. But they can start with liver, and they can start getting sun. They can start to build more biological resilience, and it will always help address the root cause.
So you don't do any processed food?
Correct.
So I've seen a lot of guys who talk about eating like our ancestors, and a lot of them refer to just like carnivore diet, right? Do you eat vegetables at all? Do you believe in them?
Not really. You know, I mean, really, anything that you're trying to get from a vegetable, you can get from nose to tail nourishment without the plant chemical defense systems. You know, vegetables don't want to be eaten either, right? Animals have horns, hooves, claws, and fangs and teeth, right? And they can run away. Vegetables can't do that. And they know what their biological imperative is well. It's to be here long enough to propagate their species, to have more, right? And so the way that they fight back is they can upregulate a chemical defense system that makes us chronically sick, and to such degree that 20% of us that want to have kids can't have kids.
So you don't eat salads?
Not really. I mean, I'll joke around and listen, every once in a while I'll have some vegetables.
Right.
But for the most part, if somebody's really suffering with an autoimmune condition, cut that shit out. Like, do what our early, and we've gone to visit with enough primitive culture tribes, they hardly eat any vegetables. I mean, animal food is at the center of their diet, and they're kicking ass. Hardly any vegetables at all. And so what I would say, listen, if you're kicking ass in life, you're eating vegetables, go eat vegetables. You're fine, right? But guess what? 85% of people struggle with self-esteem issues. 80% live paycheck to paycheck, live beyond our means. And we got to figure this out.
Yeah.
Why is this, right? Why do we live beyond our means? Because we think we can express our worth and potential with a badass wristwatch, with a fancy car, with cool ass shoes. We got to figure that out. 70% are overweight, half are obese, 50% of people are on prescription medicine. I said this earlier, 40% have or will get cancer, right? We're hurting at such desperate rates. So when I say, hey, if you're eating vegetables and you're kicking ass, you're the tiny little fraction of people.
Just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, go do that. Because the reality of it is most people hate the life that they're living in. They go to a job that they hate, come home to a life they don't love. They don't like their lives, and they're suffering with something. And vegetables, listen, I'm not pitting it all on vegetables.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is if you have an intractable recalcitrant condition, chronic condition, and it's not getting better, vegetables are not net neutral. Vegetables also pose an issue. And so nose to tail nourishment should be at the center of your diet. And what I would challenge people to do if they have a major autoimmune condition is go carnivore for a while. Cut out the processed food, go keto carnivore for 30, 40 days, see how you feel. And a lot of people feel pretty good. And then if you work in some vegetables after that, if you listen, you don't need to, but some people, they want to for whatever reason. But there's nothing from a vegetable that you can't get from animal foods.
So if I'm going to eat the ancestral way, I'm going to just eat some red meat, I'm going to eat liver, any meat really, right? Does it?
Yeah, any meat's fine. Anything comes from an animal, that's fine. And I would always put the nose to tail stuff first. Liver, bone marrow. Our primitive culture tribes, they eat the organs and they don't even eat the muscle meat. They literally give that to the dogs. I still eat muscle meat every day.
Why do I got to eat it raw?
You don't.
But why do you?
Well, you know what? I do for a couple of reasons. Number one, primitive culture tribes eat it raw. Animals in the wild eat it raw. And there's some peptides or some things that are so fragile in there, I hedge. So I get some of it raw and I get some of it cooked, right? There's these peptides like ceruloplasmin, like LEAP2, like ergothioneine, that I'm concerned if you heat this up, and there's some evidence that say once you start to cook some of this stuff, you denature some of it and some of it becomes more bioavailable. There's pros and cons to it. So you know what? I'm going to have liver every day raw. And then her mom makes the most incredible Polish liver pate and it's cooked. So I always say, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. If you want it cooked, go cook it. You don't have to do that. This guy's always going to have some liver, bone marrow, egg yolks raw, some testicles raw. I'm always doing that stuff raw.
So is the bone marrow that I eat over at like Mastro's and stuff, is that the same bone marrow that you're eating?
Well, I have it raw. I mean, they're cooking it, right?
Yeah.
And it's delicious. It's succulent.
Delicious.
It's rich.
I love it.
Here's the thing.
Bone marrow is one of my favorite things, but I've never had it raw.
It's so good. I've always said if God made butter, he would have called it bone marrow because it's so good. And when we take a cow, I'll take a femur and I'll hatchet the femur and I'll take the bone marrow right out of it and suck it down. And it's just like what you get.
Cooked?
Well, it's because it's the perfect temperature and it's still rich. Once you refrigerate it, once it gets below like 100, it gets hard and waxy and not very tasty. So I'll say if you really want to eat like our early ancestors, make nose to tail nourishment the center of your diet. You don't have to have stuff raw, but put nose to tail nourishment at the center of your diet. And trust me, I get it. It's not easy to cut out processed food, but try for 30 days. Try for 30 days. And if you can do that, and if you can cut out, listen, again, if you're kicking ass, sure, you can have your salad and vegetables, right? But let me ask you this. Do you eat vegetables?
I do, but I don't need them. I eat them because I think they're good for me.
No, yeah. No, I mean, I get it. People think wearing sunscreen is good for you. You know, people think brushing your teeth is good for you. You know, it's like we've continued to stand in a line where somebody's selling us something that we're buying. And all you got to do is look at modern day primitive culture tribes. What are they doing?
So you don't brush your teeth either?
I haven't brushed my teeth in years.
Your teeth look good.
Oh, and she's a dentist.
I know. How'd you get away with that?
Because you brush it.
You're gonna put her out of a job.
Well, she's retired, so she put herself out of the job. But that's the thing is you don't need to brush and floss your teeth for oral health. If you want to do that for fresh breath, go for it. That'll give you fresh breath. But don't kid yourself. Like you need the fat soluble system and you need mechanical loading for good oral hygiene, for good oral health. But again, you see modern day primitive culture tribes. They don't brush, they don't floss, and they don't have cavities.
So I don't need to brush my teeth. I don't need to eat vegetables.
And you know what? You don't need to shower.
Bro, that's extreme. I shower like 2 to 3 times a day.
Do you really?
I'm addicted to showering like you are to working out.
Okay. Wow. How come?
Dude, I like to shower right when I wake up
Yeah.
You know? And then I usually work out in the morning, and then I come home after the workout and I shower again. And then, you know, there might be another time throughout the day if it makes sense, but at least 2 times a day I shower.
Well, you look really healthy. There's a lot of people that have chronic skin conditions, and what they don't realize is the soap that they're using is disrupting their skin microbiome. We have an oral microbiome, a skin microbiome, right, and a gut microbiome. And we shouldn't be disrupting the natural barrier that we have 3 times a day. Now it's okay, like if you want to just get in the shower and put the shower on, right? But once
I don't soap in the morning. I just turn the shower on to wake up.
That's perfect. That's perfect, and especially if you have well water, even better. And so, do you have a filter on your shower head?
I don't think so.
Dominate cinema filter, because you got chlorine and stuff like that that's coming through. That's still going to be an issue. So we're gonna send you a filter, and you have kiddos, man. Yeah. And so again, these filters are very inexpensive, and they're gonna filter out some of those harsh chemicals. And so then it's just like using spring water. Once you're in there, so you're not breathing in the chlorine, so you're not breathing in some of the stuff, and so it's not disrupting that biome. But yeah, that's what I would say is like we've been sold a bill of goods, and people are doing it. And look at how bad we're hurting. Do we need vegetables? Hell no. I don't know if you've ever heard me say this. I said white vegetables when you can eat testicles. well, one day I said this. I was in the pantry talking to someone doing a story. I'm like, oh, that came out of my mouth. I'm gonna start saying that. I'm gonna say that for a while.
Yeah, get that on a shirt.
And recently I stopped saying it, but I'm gonna bring it back. But that's the thing is, again, if you're kicking ass in life, don't change anything. But most people aren't kicking ass.
No, I want to get better though. So like I truly, when you were like, hey, liver is king, I'm like, why? I'm like, you know what? I'll just do it myself. Like, I'll try it. I'll literally try anything before I just say scam or this doesn't work or whatever. So, I've said like I'll try a carnivore diet just to see. Like, if it makes me feel better and it helps me get more jacked, then I'm with it.
I would say this. I would still find a way to cycle in some carbs. Okay. When we were with the Hudza, we were on a hunt and they came across a baobab tree and it was a bee's nest, and they just had a party. I'm
just living off of fat and protein. That's what's fueling me with this diet.
Well, predominantly yes, but I still think it's really important to cycle in some carbs. Yeah. Once or twice a week. I love Paul Saladino. He talks about an animal-based diet, and it's okay to have some fruit, and it's okay to have some honey. And I'm behind that too. Because if you go ketosis too long, you can have some health issues. So I do think it's really important to cycle in some carbs, some healthy carbs, like a little bit of fruit and some honey. And the Hudza came across this honey, and they've lost it. And so they consume it, and after they consume it, like, oh, you know what? We can do some of that too. I like maple syrup. We do some maple syrup. So yeah, if you do these things, I do think that there's another level that most of us don't know that we have. Several of them. But let's do one at a time. And you start feeling this way, and you're gonna be like, holy shit, you're gonna be better at everything. And then you can tell everybody about it.
I love it, dude. Well, bro, I appreciate you inviting us out to LA, man. I'm definitely rooting for you and everything you're trying to promote, man, and however I can help you out, just let me know.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot,
bro.
Man.
Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that podcast. Thanks for making it to the end. The good news is I've got another one that I know you're gonna like, and all you gotta do is click it right here. Linking it right here. All you gotta do is just click it, and you're gonna see this new episode that you're gonna love.